And we are live. I spoke with Councilmember Holt, and he was not feeling well, so decided to miss this meeting. With that, I'll go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of the City Council for December 4th. And invocation and pledge of allegiance will be led by Councilmember Gardner.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, God, thank you so much for this day and for the opportunity to gather tonight and do the people's business, Lord. We just pray for wisdom and guidance in all that we do and the things that we discuss, that we can do a good job with representing our citizens' opinions and doing what is best for this city, Father. Thank you for all the blessings that you give us each and every day here, and we're thankful for those that have committed in their life to serve this city, and we just ask for that you would keep them safe in all that they do each and every day for us. We pray for Councilmember Holt that he can recover from being under the weather right now, and we just hope that he's back with us soon. God, give us someone to serve and help us to recognize that there are people in need that we can help every day in service to them, and because of that, in service to you. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, that brings us to approval of minutes. Y'all have received a copy of the minutes in the council packet. I'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion. If there is none, I'd entertain a motion to adopt.
So moved. Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Mosley?
Yes, sir, thank you. In the discussion, I guess it was on the second or third page, it was under the Park on the River discussion, and I wanted to get a clarification from the city attorney on a statement that he was made here that was in the minutes, make sure it was accurate. It's about halfway down the page of that second page. It says here that Councilmember Mosley had asked in a letter to the city attorney if any laws were broken. It says Thornton stated no laws were broken, and this had just been overlooked by the mayor, Norris, which mayor took full responsibility. And I didn't understand that he was making a final determination on that. I think I understood that that was a preliminary report and that he was still waiting on input from the auditors as to what had happened and anything else that he wanted to look into before he would state one way or the other whether he thought laws were broken or not.
Mr. City Attorney?
Oops. Oh, boy. Thank you, sir. Okay. Sorry. Yes, that's correct that my response to your, or my memorandum for Councilmember Mosley was just my preliminary answers. I think, sorry, there's a lot.
Yeah, pardon me.
Is that better?
Let's try this.
Is that, okay. I don't know how, I've not concluded that any laws have been broken so far. I don't expect I'll conclude that any laws have been broken. I haven't found any evidence of that. I think if the council just decided, as I mentioned at the last meeting, if the council kind of tried to write this off and didn't try to collect the rent, that would be a bigger issue because I think, as the council understands, we're fiduciaries of the public money. And my impression was that all members of the council were interested in pursuing some amount of unpaid rent. Now, the particular amount we might be in disagreement on. So if the council suddenly changed its mind and decided not to pursue unpaid rent, that would be a bigger issue. But that's still ongoing as we discussed at the last meeting. The last meeting or 2 meetings ago?
Probably both.
Yes. By both, yes.
It's getting blurred.
Yeah. So I don't have a concise way to answer that.
So you haven't made a final determination. Could you state how that should be in the minutes then?
We could say,
I
I'm sorry.
I specifically remembered those words. Unfortunately, I had to watch the video time and time again. I'll be happy to take the time to get the time as to when it was said, if that would make you feel more comfortable. But I do remember the city attorney saying, I don't believe any laws have been broken. That's what was said verbatim. But again, the meetings are not dictation.
I think that's fair. That's, I mean, it's in writing in my memorandum to you, Mr. Mosley, that those are my preliminary answers.
Preliminary.
And everybody understands
I
that.
would like to use
I'm
that
gonna
word
come back.
preliminary in there.
I think that's,
So-
it's clear in my memorandum.
Okay. Please insert the word preliminary.
I'm not for sure. I'm not.
Pardon me.
I'd make a motion that we insert the word preliminary into his statement.
I've got a motion to insert the word preliminary on page, is it page 3?
Might be, I don't see a page number. 1, 2, 3, be page 4.
You don't go back and change the minutes. You don't go back and change the minutes.
I'm not, pardon me, where are we inserting the word preliminary?
There's a little paragraph in the middle of page 4 of the minutes. It says Councilmember Mosley. It's right about halfway down. Had asked in a letter to the city attorney, and Thornton stated no laws were broken. This had just been overlooked by the mayor. I think we need to say, from a preliminary standpoint, Thornton stated no laws were broken.
So I've got a motion on the floor to add the word preliminary on page 4 of the minutes, third full paragraph, where it says Thornton preliminary stated?
Yeah.
No laws were broken? Preliminarily?
Yes, preliminarily, that'd be good. Preliminarily, comma.
Is there a second on that motion? Motion fails for lack of second. Councilmember Gardner,
I don't need to speak now.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Madam City Clerk.
I have no comment.
At this time, we do have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on the motion to adopt the minutes from November 20th? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no.
No.
Motion carries. We'll move on to public comment. I have 2 public comment cards. The first from Linda Kessie. Come on down. Name and address for the record, please. And feel, if you wouldn't mind just grabbing that mic and pulling it toward you a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Linda Kazee, 46 Oak Forest Place in Maumelle. And I'm requesting that you increase the budget for animal services. They were not available Sunday, October 22nd at 5:57 p.m. when I was attacked by 2 pit bulls. The dogs, a male and a female, were not vaccinated or licensed and had to be quarantined. They were left at their home for the owner to take to quarantine the next day. These dogs did not act like pets and were returned to their owner after the quarantine. There was a 3rd pit bull in the house, and if it is a female, in a very short time, there could be as many as 23 pit bulls at that house. I was attacked at my front door. I had just taken my garbage to the curb. I did not see the dogs until I was at my front door. I looked behind me and saw them. I was bitten as I was entering my house. I then tried to close my front door. It didn't close, and I had to use both hands to close the door. All the good that this council may do will be forgotten when the first child is injured. Please reinstate the dog breed ban.
Thank you, ma'am. The next public comment is from Alan Bruce Wagner. If you could please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Alan Bruce Wagner, 36 Chico Drive. All right.
I would like to speak upon Park on the River, and here's my thoughts. We as the public want this over with. We're spending too much time dinking around with this thing, all right? We gotta get it over with. But are we opening ourselves up that if we negotiate on this lease and the cost, that other entities and corporations can come back to us and ask us for our benevolence in fees on the city, such as the business fees and things of that nature? Because if we're gonna give it to one, we can't lord that over everybody else. If they want it, we gotta give it to them in general. It's, you know, it's playing fair. So are we opening ourselves up here to something? Another point is that we've talked about, and it's been in the minutes, and I've pulled the minutes, the agendas, and tried to go through it. I'm still going through it. But here's another point, is that we've talked about the non-contract usage and the fact that the city has access to the property. Great. Now, if people were calling the city wanting to know who do I talk to rent a Park on the River during that period of time, were they told to call Team Summit? I got nothing against Team Summit. Hell, I think it's a wonderful thing that they've got a company and they're doing business. But let's run our council like a business. We can have a heart, we can be benevolent, but let's run this thing like a business and get this thing up to where we can move it forward, so to speak. Another thing that we have here is that possibly, if we ever get into this situation again, we may need to look at using an ethics wall or an ethics screen in writing up front to make sure there is an isolation down through there to protect the parties involved. Acrimony, shooting back and forth, things of that nature, I'm not for that. Let's get a solution, let's move it on down the road. But, you know, kind of like Law and Order, you know, Jack McCoy used to use an ethics shield a lot in that case to make sure that they kept the cases separate. It just protects the people. I'm not trying to condemn anybody. I'm just saying, let's not put somebody in a position to be stomped on their feet, okay? Let's treat them right. Let's treat them like human beings. And then in the last case on this is that when we start looking at negotiations, or next last thing, when we start looking at negotiations and things of that nature as far as dates and all, I know we have some dates in these arenas. If we ever get in another one of these negotiations, let's use on or by dates or no later than dates in these negotiations, that we get information back in those cases. Because in this case is a specific example. In the notes from Councilor Thornton on this thing, it says by December 23rd, 23. That's 12/23/23 in my opinion. And that's what it says in writing, right? After that. 1/1/2050 is after 2023. Okay? So the point there is that what is our end date? Because as I also understand this, reading through this, we're looking at a 5-year statute of limitations on recovery of some of this money potentially. So if we go 6 years, we're in the weeds. Again, not trying to condemn anybody or point fingers at anybody or anything else. I'm just asking, let's tighten that up a little bit as a council and as an operation. Because as you said earlier, you're here to fund the people or take care of the people. And I think that would show the people that we're moving this city forward, that we're taking steps. And I think that would also help us pull in some commercial businesses that would pay more fees and more money, because it says, hey, we know what we're doing and we know how to run this thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. At this time, we'll move on to procedural motion. I'd entertain a motion to have all ordinances and resolutions read by title only.
So moved. Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. That brings us to unfinished business. The first item of unfinished business is the third reading of ordinance 1100, accepting annexation. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1100, an ordinance accepting the annexation of land commonly known as the Gosen LLC property, to be titled the Gosen LLC annexation to the City of Maumelle, Arkansas, and making the Gosen LLC property a part of the City of Maumelle, designating the same land for inclusion in Ward 4 and for other purposes.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion.
Motion to approve ordinance 1100.
I've I've got a motion and a second to approve ordinance 1100. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mosley,
No.
Councilmember Grunwald. Yes. Councilmember Mazzoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams, Councilmember Tierney,
Yes.
Councilmember Shin.
Yes.
Motion passes. Ordinance 1100 is adopted. With that, we will move on to the third reading of ordinance 1101, amending the Maumelle Land Use Plan and Map. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1101, an ordinance amending the Maumelle Land Use Plan and Map and for other purposes.
I'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion. If there is none, I'd entertain a motion to adopt. I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mosley,
No.
Councilmember Grunwald. Yes. Councilmember Mazzoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams, Councilmember Tierney,
Yes.
Councilmember Shin.
Yes.
Motion passes. Ordinance 1101 is adopted. With that, we will move on to the third reading of ordinance 1102, amending the zoning map. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1102, an ordinance amending the Maumelle zoning map and for other purposes.
I'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion. If there is, Councilmember Mosley?
Yes, I did not reiterate on the previous two, but these three are all tied together. And I just wanted to make clear again that my reasons for voting no on these three is that I do not agree with annexing in outside areas from Maumelle that are going to be for housing. I'm more than happy to do that for commercial and retail and that sort of thing, but I think we should stick with our traditional boundaries in Maumelle for housing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 1102.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mosley,
No.
Councilmember Grunwald. Yes. Councilmember Mazzoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams, Councilmember Tierney,
Yes.
Councilmember Shin.
Yes.
Motion passes. Ordinance 1102 is adopted. That brings us to new business. The first item, first and only item of new business is Resolution 2023-40, establishing a code of conduct for elected officials. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, Pulaski County, Arkansas, Resolution Number 2023-40, a resolution reestablishing a code of conduct for elected officials in the City of Maumelle.
All right, thank you. So this is not a new resolution. For a period of time there, we were actually adopting this on an annual basis. I think this first came up under former council member John Vaperzan had pushed for it, and so it's been in place in one form or the other. Mostly what it does is just refer to the city code on a few issues and then just point to sort of best practices here. I've just noticed some of the meetings have been getting more and more contentious, and I think we can have vibrant disagreement that doesn't become hostile or aggressive. We want this to be definitely a place for debate, but also a place where we recognize that each and every person is here as a representative of either all the residents of Maumelle or residents of those that ward, and are all here to serve the public. I'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion.
Motion to adopt resolution number 2023-40.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilmember Mosley?
Yes, sir. Is this enhanced from the previous one? It looks a lot longer and that sort of thing. And if so, did we adopt it from, or did this come from another city?
Mr. City Attorney?
If I'm not mistaken, it's from where it's based on the municipal league's model or sample code of conduct. The attachment is at least.
But, pardon me, for this
The
resolution.
resolution is the same as, I believe the last one, Ms. Timmons told me, is in 2019, is that right?
Yes.
And so-
You've actually signed it, Councilmember Mosley. It's not new, it hasn't been adjusted. It's the same one you signed previously.
Oh, is it exactly the same?
Exactly, yes, sir.
Okay. Let me also just make sure that everybody understands this is a voluntary code of ethics. Is that correct, Mr. Mayor and Mr. City Attorney?
A voluntary,
Yes, sir. It doesn't require, I think it invites, so any elected official who would like to pledge their adherence to the code of conduct may sign their name. So the attachment is voluntary, and then it quotes the two code provisions that are on point.
so I was going to say it references some portions of the city code, which is the law, and that part is mandatory. The code of conduct itself, which is why it doesn't have to be signed by each council member. Traditionally, those council members who ascribed or sort of wanted to buy, council members and electeds that wanted to agree to the sort of the second portion there are free to sign it.
Okay. So there are no penalties for violating any of this. Council can't get together and vote somebody off the council. Is that correct?
The city council doesn't have that authority in any situation.
All right.
Doesn't have authority to remove an elected.
And then I'm not sure what the penalty of violating the code portions are.
I don't know either. It wouldn't be removal from office.
It might serve as, the violation of the ordinance that's already in place may or may not serve as a basis for malfeasance or misfeasance.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
So it would require the prosecutor to, a council member, mayor could be removed from office for malfeasance, misfeasance, and nonfeasance. That is either doing nothing to the point where you get prosecuted by the Pulaski County prosecutor, doing something so poorly that it's misfeasance or malfeasance. But it's been a while since I looked up those provisions of state code. I don't know that it's ever occurred in Arkansas history with any city ever. But, and so just to be as precise as possible, perhaps a prosecutor might find that violating the city code could serve as the basis.
Of course, I mean, if your concern is like, would it step on your free speech rights? Of course, the city code can't be interpreted or applied to override, freedom of speech or something like that. The federal constitution, the state constitution would trump that.
I feel like I muddied it up a little bit, but I just wanted to be as precise as possible. There's kind of two portions here. One, the city code that's already there, and this reminds us or reaffirms the commitment to those provisions of the city code. And then there's a portion that is not even in the city code, and it's only the resolution.
Okay. Mr. Thornton, there was a court ruling back last summer that you and I had talked about at the time, where I think somebody had been at a council meeting and they had gotten, said some derogatory comments and that sort of thing, and they were thrown out of the council meeting. And I think they sued the city council there for not allowing them freedom of speech. Could you comment on that, just and how it might apply to our council meetings and any comments at the lectern under public comment?
Sure. This doesn't restrict public comment. This is just a voluntary kind of code for council members or elected officials, so it doesn't restrict public comments at all. The case you're referring to came out of Massachusetts. It was a decision by the Massachusetts High Court in March, I think, or earlier this year. In any case, a member of the public was rude. She was calling the mayor or whoever a Hitler or something like that, and they threw her out or they stopped her from speaking, and that's pretty classic, what they call viewpoint discrimination. And this doesn't have anything to do with that. I think Mr. Norris understands that we can't restrict if a member, once we open the lectern up for public comment at the beginning, we can typically only enforce what they call time, place, or manner, so like the 3 minutes, you can't scream, you have to keep it to a reasonable volume, that kind of thing. So this doesn't have anything to do with public comment. It's just for the elected officials, if they wish to sign their name.
Okay, and basically the same thing applies with,
Hey, let me get you on mic.
And basically, the same thing would apply with elected officials. If an official lost their mind and started cursing and that sort of thing, they have a right to say that. Is that correct?
I'm not sure. I think deliberative bodies like city councils or state boards, that kind of thing, they can adopt rules of internal procedure, rules of order, that kind of thing, like Robert's Rules of Orders, for example, that we follow. That's a restriction on your right of speech, right? You can't speak over other people. You have to keep it to one topic at a time, but nobody questions really that those are perfectly lawful restrictions. I don't know if a council member lost their mind and started, cussing another member out or something like that. I don't know how we would handle it. But the mayor, as the as the presiding officer, could, I think, gavel the person down because it's astray of whatever the motion or whatever the point was on the table. So yeah, I think councils can adopt rules of order, which is, I think, if you look at the second quoted city code section 2-82, and then we reproduce rules of order in the city code in that area of the city code. So yeah, there are certainly restrictions on your speech when you're at a council member, when you are at a council meeting, when you are a council member. There are restrictions, yes.
Okay. So you're saying there are some restrictions, okay. One of the sentences, the last sentence in the Code of Conduct, it says this municipality will not condone activities that are in violation of the principles of appropriate conduct. What does this mean? It almost sounds threatening. What does this mean, Mr. City Attorney?
That's from the model Code of Conduct from the Municipal League. I think it's just a commitment for whoever wants to sign it that those members or those elected officials won't participate in those, won't violate the code, this Code of Conduct, again. It's voluntary, and I can't really, if you give me a specific example of what you're imagining, I can tell you whether it would be enforceable or not, but.
It almost sounds like, will not condone, you go, or what? Is there, I don't know what that means. It almost sounds threatening, so. I'd make a motion to just strike that last sentence in this thing.
I will say that, the last time the council adopted this was 2019, so it's not really enforced, it's a voluntary commitment, but to the extent a voluntary commitment can be enforced, it's been enforced since then, and since 2016, I think, is when it was originally adopted.
I remember when it's Representative Brandon.
Yeah. So, and I will say that I've only been here since January, but I've not seen any council members prevented from speaking on any topic at any time, actually, or a member of the public. So, again, I don't know. If you give me a more specific example of a situation, I can tell you what the mayor, as the presiding officer, would be allowed to do. But just generally speaking, I don't think anybody's being prevented from, at least I haven't seen that, being prevented from speaking their mind on any subject.
All right. I'd like to just make a quick comment on this subject here. We did have an unpleasant exchange last meeting, and I do not enjoy those. And I went back and watched the meeting to see how we even got into that situation. And I did not go into that meeting with the idea of questioning the mayor or the city clerk on the park on the river. I got distracted because of the spreadsheet that was provided, and I veered off, I think. So I put a process in place for this, and I think I veered from the process. What I did ask is I asked the city attorney or city auditors to look into this and try to tell us what happened. And I also asked the city attorney to do the same and to tell us what laws might have been broken. In other words, investigate. And I should have left that process to them and let that play out without asking those questions the other night. I don't apologize for asking, because it's our job to look into things that look odd and to try to find out what happened. But I did vary from the process, and I look forward to hearing what the auditors have to say at the next meeting, and we'll continue to put some faith and trust in them and the city attorney. Thank you. That's all I've got.
Madam City Clerk?
I just wanted to point out that this resolution is identical to the resolution that has been signed before. The only thing that has changed is we have a couple of new council members who may be interested in participating in this resolution. And then again, it follows with the civility training that is being offered by the Municipal League that I think a lot of us would benefit from. There are some climate changes, some better ways of having conversations that are productive, and I think we all would benefit from civility training and also signing this ethics resolution just as a good faith effort moving forward. And that's it.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on the floor. I just want to speak to something really quick. I remember back sitting on this city council, either in 13 or 14, when I was working at the Arkansas Municipal League, and I went out and visited. They called in the Municipal League to resolve a dispute in another city, who I will not say the name on the record. And I went to that and saw a council meeting that made me come back. And at that time, we were having 3 and 4 hour long council meetings. We used to discuss everything, including whether we were going to discuss everything. I'm sure I played no part in its length or how wordy everything was. But I came back here and was so thankful that even though we had so many disagreements and we disagreed and we debated, there was a spirit of respect and acknowledgement that viewpoints differ. And I've said this since I was on the city council. If you have a city council and a mayor in office that's voting 8-0 on every single thing, that maybe you should wonder if everyone is independently assessing and thinking, or whether there's meetings occurring somewhere else that you don't know about. So debate and discussion and disagreement is not only good, in my opinion, it's desired. But when we make it so that it turns personal and people are starting to feel attacked, and then they don't want to represent arguments, or they're not wanting to share their viewpoints or what their constituents have communicated to them, because the environment gets so hostile. And let me be clear, I don't think we have nothing near what I saw in that other city. But for the first time in 5 years, I did use the gavel somewhat meekly, but we don't want to get to the point that disagreement turns into fighting, because that is when it becomes unproductive. So whether that is embodied in this code of conduct, for me, it's important to remember why we're here, the respect that we give, if not to the individual, to the position, and each and every person up here represents a portion of residents who deserve to have their voice heard here through that representation, and we don't want to create an environment where that is not conducive and part of the dialogue that's going on. So I wholly support this. We've got a motion, second on the floor, to adopt resolution 2023-40. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I was gonna say those are good words, Mayor. You said that well. And I remember that meeting, I remember you telling us about it, and I remember you told us what city it was, and I'm not gonna repeat it tonight, but if I remember right, you had council members going out into the audience and getting with the groups of their supporters and yelling and screaming, and they had police all around the room and that sort of thing to keep people from physically fighting.
Yes.
And our city is, I think, probably the closest thing maybe to a model of how things should be done. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any additional discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. That concludes new business and brings us to mayor's comments. First of all, I can't tell you how awesome it was to live in Maumelle on Saturday with the Christmas events. You know, it started off with the pancake breakfast with Santa put on by the Lions Club, and sort of partnered with the Maumelle Parks and Rec, as well as the Youth Council and the Lions Cubs. A great turnout as usual. I had a 9-year-old who's now buddies with the same Santa that he's seen. Hopefully he's not watching. Surely he's not watching. Same Santa he's seen for 9 years, and a 5-year-old who didn't want to see Santa but didn't want to leave until he saw Santa. So I'm not sure how that works. We then went on, the library had its own event, and then we had the Christmas parade, which was moved to 5. It was definitely the longest parade we've ever had. We slowed it down a little bit, but then it even went slower, and there was a ton of floats and numerous other things that were out there, and it was really fun. By the time the parade was done, it was really dark, and with all the lights on the floats, it was really great. That parade ended at Lake Willistine, where we effectively led to the first annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony at the Lake Willistine there. And that's something that I was talking to a few folks is just getting going. We're really just getting started in trying to create a Maumelle Christmas sort of month-long. And that is not just done by the city, while Parks and Rec did their share, folks in my office did the share. It was in part through partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, who did an incredible amount of work and brought their folks and sponsors to the project, as well as a Christmas committee that put in the individual's sweat equity to make this happen. We've worked a little bit hard trying to make the place a little more festive with Christmas trees here at Lake Valencia, at Lake Willistine, trees lined with lights. We're really wanting to continue that trend. But anyway, so at the annual tree lighting, we had the Proclara bell ringers lead it out, which was just beautiful, sitting there by Lake Willistine watching that occur. What else happened? We had songs from Pine Forest Elementary. Councilmember Gronwald got to thank the members of the committee and entities that had put in work, and that was, of course, because you served on this committee and put in a lot of sweat equity. And I hope I'm not stealing too much if you had council member comments, so thank you to you as well. Maumelle Charter School sang. There was a tree lighting by Chiefs Pickard and Buford. Their families, really, I think they both agreed to have the youngest of their kids light it, and I don't know why, but it might be because they're going to live the longest with the youngest, so you want to make them the happiest. I'm not sure if that's how it works. The Maumelle High School Choir also sang, and that was beautiful. And so if you weren't there, you missed out, but I'm sure you'll be there next year. So we still have other events throughout the month, so please look for those. Had planned on passing out the final draft of the act for tonight. I spoke with the auditor today, and he said he hopes to have them tomorrow. If he has them tomorrow, we'll deliver them to you at the budget meeting that is at 6 p.m. in the Blue Room, open to the public, and of course it'll be streamed live on YouTube. If we don't get the audit book by tomorrow, we will deliver it on Wednesday. I told him if it's past Wednesday, and this is really up to the discretion of the council, if we don't get the book by Wednesday, that we might want to consider just postponing the presentation and additional time. I know, having looked through the final draft of the ACFR, if you're really wanting to dig in there, you need more than a couple days to look at that book, especially with our schedule. So with that, don't forget about budget meeting tomorrow at 6. With that, we will move on to council member comments. Councilmember Mazzoni.
Yeah, went to Maumelle High School, had a community outreach program and a big presentation. And it was pretty impressive what they're doing. A lot of local businesses, the amount of involvement that our businesses have in the education of our children is pretty good. They have a new superintendent there, Dr. Farr, he's pretty impressive. He's done a lot of good things with that school so far, so we can all be proud of the kids we have there. They broke out, and it was the students themselves that brought us around to each of the sections and really went into depth into all the different programs they had. So it was actually pretty impressive to see. And that's it.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Tierney.
Yeah, I wanted to go ahead and give my planning commission report for last month in November. I think that kind of got skipped earlier in the progress there. There were 3 items dealt with in November, none of which are coming before the council. The first was a proposed addition to 2 tracts of land on Valley Creek Drive on the northwest corner of Maumelle, approving for 2 acres to be divided out of an 18-acre parcel of land and the construction of a family home. The second dealt with Block 2 of the Majestic Point addition and the proposal to replat 2 lots into 1. Several neighbors voiced their objection to the applicant's plans to build a privacy fenced pool on his adjoining undeveloped lot. The applicant said there was, the residents probably wouldn't even be able to see the pool since his plans were to keep the land in a natural state. But his request was denied, and because of this, a pair of easement variance requests connected to that property went unread. The third matter dealt with a variance request at 2 Platte Drive to allow the owner to build a covered parking deck in his backyard. It passed on a split vote. Another matter that might be of interest to the council was the commission's concerns with holiday scheduling conflicts. To avoid the possibility of not being able to convene a quorum, the meeting dates for December have all been moved up this month. So they're not the original published dates. They have been changed, which I think will mostly affect Councilmember Shin, who will be monitoring this month. And that was my report.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, I wanted to repeat some of the nice things I said to Ms. Gronwald before the meeting about the Christmas lighting ceremony up at Lake Willistine. I missed the parade, but I could hear the fire trucks very easily from my house. So there was a lot of honking going on. I thought, oh, the parade's going on. I need to get up there. And so I came up, and I had no idea it was a 2-hour ceremony up there with kids singing and kids screaming about getting an award for a float. That was quite impressive. Apparently, I was asking Ms. Gronwald. Apparently, there was a lot of kids in schools and things like that brought into the process. So, I told her it was kind of like one of those. What is it? One of those Hallmark movies. It was here's this small town with this Christmas festival going on. So I'm hoping we're able to continue that into the future, and that was a first big doing, and I think it went off really well for it being the first year like that. So anyway, thank everybody for doing that. I think that added to our community connectivity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And maybe to jump to the defense of the fire department a little bit, I'm not sure if they honked their horns, but there were certainly tow trucks that were honking their horns quite a bit. There was a few tow trucks that were honking. I'm not sure. And so if you didn't like them, I'm not sure if we can blame the fire department, so.
My little grandson lost his mind over
Oh, you did. So, any additional council member comments? Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I had one more here. I had a constituent call me after the last meeting and wanted to ask if the council would, in the future, any handouts? You know, we have, the last 3 meetings, I think we had handouts that appeared on our desk for possible discussion that night. Memos from city attorney and that sort of thing. And they asked if we couldn't require that kind of stuff to go into the council packet so that the residents can look at it and not discuss anything that is not in the packet. So I'm hoping we can do that in the future. I would encourage everybody, if you have something that want to be considered, to get it in the council packet.
So, really quickly to that point, the goal is always to do that. The question then is if stuff is completed or brought to our attention after the packet goes out, whether to prohibit the passing out of that document, or memo, or, just discuss it and then do as has been done, and include it in the packet. So, I understand the frustration. I've also walked into meetings and had someone say, well, you didn't look at the memo? I was like, what memo? Anyways, does the council have a preference on that? And maybe that's a better discussion for the first meeting in January, which will be the meeting where we discuss the agenda and all of that. But be thinking about that, maybe that's a good time to bring it up. The pros, there's definitely a lot of pros to that sort of stuff. The cons are then there's a cutoff date, and anything after that is, I guess we pretend it doesn't exist for 2 weeks or something. So think about that, and we can talk about it at that point. City attorney comments? City clerk comments?
I just need you guys to sign this before you leave.
The code of conduct is being passed around. If you wouldn't mind staying a few minutes to handle that. If there's nothing further, we will see y'all tomorrow after a motion to adjourn. Got a motion. Do I hear a second and a second? Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carried. We are adjourned. Thank you for your service.